Have you ever wondered about the myths and legends surrounding the Norse god Loki? If you have, you are not alone. When you hear the name Loki, you probably picture mischief, pranks, shape-shifting, chaos. But the truth is stranger and way more powerful. Loki isn't just a trickster. He's a catalyst, a living plot twist in the mythology of the Vikings. Someone who repeatedly saves the gods and ultimately helps destroy them. Today, we're diving into the full mythic arc of Loki, where he came from, why the gods kept him close, the outrageous schemes he pulled, the children he fathered that would shake the cosmos, and the chain of events that led to his most infamous act, an act that lit the fuse for Ragnarök. So grab your cloak, keep one eye on the shadows, and let's step into the world of the Norse, where the line between hero and villain is always shifting. Loki is one of the most complicated figures in Norse mythology because he doesn't fit neatly into any box. He's not fully one of the gods, but he lives among them. He's not fully a giant, but he descends from giants. He's not purely evil, but he becomes a force of destruction. In the Norse worldview, the cosmos isn't a simple battle of good versus evil. It's a brutal reality of competing powers: gods, giants, monsters, fate, and time. And Loki stands right in the middle of it all, like a match hovering over dry grass. He's clever, charismatic, fast-talking, and dangerously creative. Someone who can talk his way into trouble and talk his way out of it. Sometimes within the same sentence. And that's what makes Loki so fascinating. He is the living embodiment of change. Sometimes change is hilarious. Sometimes it's necessary. And sometimes it's catastrophic. Loki's father is the giant Farbauti, and his mother is Laufey. And depending on the story, Laufey may be linked to the divine or the giantish world as well. Either way, Loki's roots are tied to the Jotnar, the giants, ancient beings who represent wild nature, untamed forces, and cosmic opposition to the gods. And yet, Loki becomes a close companion of Odin, the All-Father. In some traditions, Loki and Odin are bound by a pact, often described as a kind of brotherhood. That bond matters, because it explains why the gods tolerate Loki even when he's unbearable. Odin values knowledge and cunning, and Loki has cunning in overflowing supply. He isn't just a nuisance, he's useful, until he isn't. Here's a pattern you'll see again and again in Loki's myths. Loki causes a disaster by insult, prank, or reckless deal. The gods threaten him. Loki uses his wit to fix the disaster, often in a way that creates a new disaster later. It's like Loki is the universe's stress test, revealing weaknesses in the gods, pushing boundaries, forcing the world to move. And some of the most legendary treasures of Norse myth exist because Loki couldn't stop being Loki. One day, Loki decides to play a cruel prank. He sneaks up on Sif, the wife of Thor, and cuts off her beautiful hair while she sleeps. When Thor finds out, it's not just anger, it's storm-level fury, the kind that makes mountains nervous. Thor grabs Loki and makes it clear, you are going to fix this, or you are going to die. So Loki does what Loki does best. He talks his way into a gamble. He goes to the dwarven smiths, master craftsmen of the mythic world, and promises them rewards if they can create new hair for Sif. But Loki doesn't stop there. He pushes further, challenging rival dwarves and turning the whole situation into a competition. And from that competition comes some of the most famous treasures in Norse mythology. Sif's new hair, made of gold that grows like real hair. Mjolnir, Thor's hammer, so powerful it becomes a symbol of protection and divine authority. Gungnir, Odin's spear that never misses. Draupnir, a ring that multiplies itself, spilling wealth. Skidbladnir, a ship that always has favorable wind and can fold up small enough to fit in a pocket. And all of it, every legendary artifact, exists because Loki couldn't resist a prank. But even here, Loki's fingerprints are darker than they seem. Mjolnir, for example, ends up with a short handle because Loki interferes during its forging, meaning even the god's greatest weapon carries a flaw created by Loki. A perfect metaphor.
Loki's superpower isn't strength, it's transformation. He changes shape, identity, even gender in certain stories. He becomes whatever the moment demands, because Loki's true weapon is adaptability. And in Norse myth, shape-shifting isn't just a cool trick. It symbolizes unstable identity and blurred boundaries. Loki is the one who crosses lines others fear to cross, and that line crossing leads directly to one of the wildest stories in all Norse mythology, how the gods got their unbreakable fortress, and how Loki ended up giving birth to an 8-legged horse. The gods want a secure wall around Asgard. A mysterious builder appears and offers a deal. He can build a fortress so strong no giant could ever breach it. But he asks for a payment that sounds impossible. The goddess Freya, along with the sun and the moon. The gods hesitate, but Loki convinces them to accept the deal with one condition. The builder must finish the wall in an extremely short time, and he must do it alone. The builder agrees, and immediately reveals his secret. He has a powerful stallion named Svadilfari helping him, an animal so strong it can haul impossible stones. Suddenly the wall is almost finished. The gods panic, because if the builder succeeds, they lose Freya, the sun, and the moon. And guess who they blame? Loki. So they threaten him, again forcing him to fix the mess. Loki shapeshifts into a mare and distracts Svadilfari, leading the stallion away into the night. The builder fails to finish on time. The gods expose him as a giant, and Thor ends the situation the way Thor ends most situations, with a hammer. But the aftermath is where the myth becomes legendary. Loki, having taken the form of a mare, later gives birth to Sleipnir, an 8-legged horse that becomes Odin's supernatural steed, able to ride across the worlds, even into the realm of the dead. So let that sink in. Odin's most famous mount exists because Loki made a risky deal, then shapeshifted to fix it, and the fix changed the cosmos. Again, chaos. Solution, bigger consequences. Now we reach the most fateful part of Loki's mythology, his children. With the giantess Angerboda, Loki becomes the father of 3 beings that the gods recognize as existential threats. Fenrir, the monstrous wolf. Jörmungandr, the Midgard serpent, so huge it coils around the world. Hel, ruler of the dead, half living and half corpse in appearance. The gods don't just dislike these children, they fear them because prophecy says these beings will play major roles in Ragnarök, the doom of the gods. So the gods act. They throw Jörmungandr into the ocean surrounding Midgard, where it grows until it encircles the world. They send Hel to the realm of the dead, making her ruler of those who die of sickness or old age. And they attempt to bind Fenrir. But Fenrir is too strong for ordinary chains. So the gods commission the dwarves to craft a magical binding called Gleipnir, thin as a ribbon, but forged from impossible ingredients. When they try to bind Fenrir, the wolf senses deception and demands a price. Someone must place a hand in his mouth as a pledge of good faith. Only Tyr, the brave god of law and war, agrees. Fenrir is bound, and as the trap tightens, the wolf bites down, severing Tyr's hand. From that moment on, the gods have purchased temporary safety by planting the seeds of vengeance. And Loki sees what the gods do to his children. He sees the fear, the cruelty, the fate they're trying to avoid, and something in him begins to harden. The moment Loki becomes truly infamous is tied to Baldr, the god of light, beauty, and goodness. Baldr begins having terrible dreams of his own death. His mother Frigg panics and travels the world, demanding oaths from all things: stone, fire, water, metal, beasts, that they will never harm her son. And it works. Baldr becomes essentially invulnerable. The gods, relieved, begin treating it like a game. They throw weapons at Baldr, shoot arrows, swing axes, and everything bounces off. The hall fills with laughter. But Loki doesn't laugh. He disguises himself and visits Frigg, gently probing for a weakness. And Frigg, believing she's speaking to an innocent, mentions there is one thing she did not ask for an oath: mistletoe. It seemed too small, too harmless. Loki leaves, finds mistletoe, and crafts it into a weapon. Then he returns to the gods' game and approaches Hodr, Baldr's blind brother, who stands aside, unable to participate. Loki offers to guide Hodr's hand, placing the mistletoe weapon into it. Hodr throws. The mistletoe pierces Baldr, and the god of light falls dead. Everything changes. The gods try to recover Baldr from the underworld. A deal is offered. Baldr can return if all things weep for him, and all things do. Creatures, stones, trees, even the earth itself. All, except one figure, often described as a giantess named Thok. She refuses, and in many tellings Thok is Loki in disguise. Baldr remains in the realm of the dead, his absence a wound in the world, a prophecy made real. And Loki has crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed. After Baldr's death, the gods hunt Loki down. He tries to escape, even turning into a salmon, but he's captured. Then comes one of the harshest punishments in Norse myth. Loki is bound to rocks with the entrails of his own son, an act meant to be both physical torture and emotional annihilation. Above him, a venomous serpent drips poison onto his face. Loki's wife, Sigyn, stays with him, catching the venom in a bowl. But when she must empty it, drops strike Loki, and his convulsions are said to shake the earth itself. In other words, earthquakes are Loki's pain, and he remains there until the end. At Ragnarök, Loki breaks free. He becomes a leader of the forces against the gods, sailing in a ship made from the nails of the dead. The monsters rise. Fenrir breaks his bonds. Jörmungandr surges from the sea. The sky darkens. The world trembles. And Loki meets the god Heimdall, guardian of the Bifrost Bridge. They fight. And in a final act of symmetry, order versus chaos, they kill each other. Loki does not win. The gods do not win. Ragnarök is not a victory story. It's an ending and a reset. Because in Norse myth, even after the doom, something survives. A new world rises. Life returns. And Loki, in his terrible way, is part of that cosmic cycle, destroyer and catalyst. So what is Loki? A villain? A hero? A victim? A necessary force? Norse mythology doesn't give easy answers because it's built on the idea that fate moves like a storm, and Loki is the lightning inside it. He exposes the gods' arrogance. He tests their laws. He proves that even the most powerful beings can be undone by pride, fear, and a single overlooked detail. And maybe that's why Loki endures, not just as a trickster, but as a warning. That chaos isn't always outside the walls. Sometimes it's invited in, fed at the table, kept close, until it becomes too big to control. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Loki, hit like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments, do you see Loki as a villain or as the inevitable shadow of the gods themselves? Until next time, stay curious and watch the mistletoe. Thank you for your company as we seek why together.